Last week, plus 175 dog hit Pat Sabatini, our empty carton pick of the week. It hit. We got another fun one later on in the program here today, so make sure you don't miss that. Featherweight gold is on the line. Once that magical chin of Volkanovski got cracked at a higher weight class, people don't believe in him anymore. They say that he's done. The GOAT of the featherweight division, arguable, Jose Aldo's still in the picture, but the GOAT of the division, he's done for, and it's a new era. Ilya's moving up. Lopez is ready to take the throne. MMA fandom, is it really that fickle? It's like we have this every couple of months where you got the guy who's been running the division, running the show. You lose once, you lose twice, and all of a sudden, they're not even a championship contender anymore. They're not even in the picture. They shouldn't be in the equation. I ask you this because I thought MMA wasn't boxing. In boxing, you lose once, they write you off. In MMA, you could be Oliveira. You could have 8, 9, 10 losses and still be in the title hunt.
Well, Derek, I think there's some nuance there because I agree with you, right? The new age of the fans that are watching right now, you lose once, you're basically washed up, right? And we say it all the time. MMA is what have you done for me lately, right? And it's even worse with the fans because, yeah, you get knocked out, you get cracked a couple times in certain fights, man. People are going to start overlooking you, thinking you're washed up. But then all it takes is one to get right back in that saddle. And that's what I do like about MMA, or at least the UFC landscape we've had. You can have people come back 3-4 years later down the road, hopefully not retired, but still have the good impact and have that moment to people say, oh man, he's back. Volk is back. Yeah, that is an absolute possibility going forward for this one.
I mean, it was almost Shevchenko-esque, right? You're looking at Volkanovski minus 150 favorite over Lopez in a championship fight. This is pretty much what happened. Shevchenko and Alexa Grasso, right? Similar situation. So this is an opportunity where if you're a believer in Volkanovski, you cash in big. Kind of like how the market is these days, man. The downturn, you come and cash in. But if you believe in the future, if you believe in Lopez, you also got fantastic odds. Plus 125. You would want them a little bit deeper, a little bit more of a dog right there. But it goes to show how scary it is. Folks, we got a lot to cover here today. UFC 314 is the docket. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start it off with 3 consensus picks plus 1 fighter that we are fading hard right here that I don't think you're going to expect. So, the consensus picks, Paddy Pimblett, Jean Silva, and Yair Rodríguez. These weren't the 3 consensus picks that I would have thought of before we had submitted our picks, but here we are, brother. That leaves us with 2 contentious picks. We'll talk about it in our breakdown, so stick around for that one. But as always, give us the theme for the 3 consensus picks we got here.
The theme this week, Derek, is finishing ability. All 3 of these fighters, if they're able to lock in those positions and get the finishes done, which we've seen them do in the past against the opponents they face, that is their best chance to win.
And there are 2 live dogs that you would argue if you're at least checking out the Twitter sphere or just the online sphere. You got Bryce Mitchell and Michael Chandler. And AJ, I don't know if you're as deep on this one as I am, but I am fading Michael Chandler hard right now, bro. Like, listen, they're saying this is the perfect spot. He's got the big power. Paddy keeps the chin up in the air, Dusko Todorovic style. He's gonna catch him. He's not gonna be able to grapple him in time. But am I too jaded to say I can't in good faith bet on a Michael Chandler fight because the one tool that he has always had in the back pocket to utilize all of the stuff against Paddy is the wrestling. He never uses it. So that therefore you're just I don't even know what you would call it, man. Just a mean punching bag waiting to go ahead and throw some bombs. Talk to us, brother. What do you think?
I have an asterisk right next to that Paddy Pimblett pick because I'm with you. If there's ever a fighter to fade, it is Michael Chandler. The thing is, when you get touched up or when Chandler gets touched up in the cage, all game plan goes out the window, but he still has a really, really good shot to put on a performance against the young Paddy Pimblett.
Even though he's nearing 40 years old, I will say I've been seeing on good old Twitter, bro. They're saying like, yo, Michael Chandler rigging a fight, fixing a fight, not possible. Because if he tries to lose, then he might just win. You know, nobody knows what's going to go down in a Michael Chandler fight. And I think that is very safe to say. So again, those are the 3 consensus picks. We're going to break all of this stuff down here in just a few. But let's go ahead and talk about the prop locks that we have this week, brother. Heads up, last week completely voided. Literally, the 2 props that we gave to you guys, the MMA gods took them away. They canceled both of the fights. But we got some good ones for you. Go ahead and give them your first one, AJ.
I'm rocking this week with Jean Silva by KO, right? Plus 115, plus money on this, folks. If you've seen the bad blood that's going on in this fight, you know they're going to be out hunting for finishes. So, Jean Silva, I mean, we've talked about it. Even Bryce Mitchell knows that he's going to be head hunting. Even Bryce Mitchell said something like, I was born with brain damage, brother. I'm going to be all right, or something like that. Well, you know Jean Silva's going to be looking to get that KO, especially with all the heat that's on this. At plus money, I like this one a lot.
Man, that's going to be a fire contest right there. And he's got, animosity right there, AJ. Bryce Mitchell he's gone so far to say, Jean Silva doing all that barking while I put down a couple of dogs in my days. We're some dog lovers over here, so I don't appreciate that, Bryce Mitchell, Thug Nasty. But yeah, there's gonna be some heat behind this one. All right, folks, I got a almost 99.9% lock right here. These are locks, but I never really go as far as to say 99.9%. Cedric Dumas versus Michael Oleksichuk. Fight does not go the distance at -210. You might look at that number and say that's kind of a heavy price to pay. But if you look at the two styles of these fighters, unless Dumas turns into a D1 wrestler and decides not to throw hands, somebody's getting put away in this fight. So it's going to be pretty simple, pretty to the point. And again, those are your prop locks. So take them to the bank, cash them in, or your sports book, and comment below. Let us know how we did for you. All right. Before we jump into the main card picks, if you have not subscribed yet, this is a perfect time to do it. But don't just take it from me. Go ahead and see how the picks fare this weekend, and then you make the assessment yourself.
Here's to another main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
I have to revisit this. In any other scenario where Volk doesn't decide to go up, lose to the guy that's like the next pound for pound best in the UFC, Islam Makhachev, at a higher weight class, and then lose to the guy who just took over 145 in Ilia Topuria and then dipped to move up to the higher weight class, if that alternate reality, or if that real reality never happened and we were in an alternate timeline, I think Volk would be like a -600 favorite right here, something like that, man. Lopez is nasty, clubbing hands, sick jiu-jitsu. But how did we get here? Is that literally it? Just perception right here? Is Volk done because he lost to context taken out of the situation? What do you think?
I do think a lot of people are really looking into that, Derick. It weighs heavy on a lot of the bettors' minds going forward. But I agree with you. Like, but besides these situations that Volk has found himself in because he is forced to face the cream of the crop, anybody else, they're I don't want to say miles back, but they're pretty far back. Like, Volk has started to lap the division, and that's why we've seen these young and up-and-comers who are at that same point in their career be able to succeed. The thing is, Diego Lopes, I mean, as much as he is untested, that is still the opportunity that he has presented to himself and has a good shot of being that next guy to really do dethrone one of the kings of the division, Alexander Volkanovski. And if it does happen, you know there's a lot on the plate for Volkanovski right here, man. If he loses Diego Lopes, we might not see him, at least in a main card fight, for quite a while.
I think that's a little bit of a stretch, but I think that the assumption people have is that he might retire. We might not see him entirely, not even not outside of a main card, just in general. He might just call it quits because I believe it's safe to say that on this program, if you've done everything that you need, if you've locked in your Hall of Fame spot, there's no reason to keep fighting if you start losing the mojo. You know what I mean? But this is going to be the big test right here. Volk looks in good shape. He looks shredded, but Lopez has a notable size advantage here. And Lopez is huge, dude. Like 5'11", featherweight. Reach is comparable. He only has an inch reach, so that's not really something to be too concerned about. But he's got that slender man build, man. He's long, he's lanky, and he throws all of his shots big and looping that can lead to the big clubbing shots within that kind of clinch range. Volkanovski, some people are saying right now, he's scared to enter that pocket and do that because of the power that's coming back his way. But realistically, man, what does Diego Lopes need to do to put him in a vulnerable spot like Ilia Topuria did or like Makhachev did with the head kick? What does he have aside from just walking him down and throwing big shots? Because I'm going to give you my take, man. You give Lopez 1 or 2 rounds. If he does not get it done within those 2 rounds, I think that Volkanovski cruises to a decision. Everybody, all the hype just dissipates immediately. And people say, oh, yeah, that's right. Volkanovski is really good. What do you think?
I agree with you, Derick. The longer the fight goes, the better of an opportunity Volkanovski has to win this fight. But to answer your question, what I think Diego Lopes needs to do to be able to put Volk in that bad position is make sure you catch him when he's dropping that left hand. Fight after fight, these last 2 ones you're talking about, we've seen Volk, when he's throwing punches, he drops that left hand a little bit, and that's where everybody else is able to take advantage of it. So if Diego Lopes is able to start strong, start fast, put the pressure on him, let Volk get a little bit nervous and think, like, man, is this happening again? And then create those moments, cut those angles, find that opportunity to hit your big right hand while he's dropping his guard, and then get the fight to the ground. I see a club and sub all day long.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so we're taking that performance that Volkanovski had against Ortega and we're throwing that out the window. Like, that proved to us the guy before Diego Lopes, who was the biggest submission threat in the division, was Brian Ortega. 2 completely locked in submissions that he was able to escape. Are we throwing that out the window?
we're not throwing it out the window, Derek. All I'm saying is Diego Lopes might not be the best submission artist in the game, but he's a little younger. Volk's a little older. Things happen, and sometimes that fight in that dog, and I'm not saying it's not there, but I'm just saying sometimes when you snatch one up, Diego Lopes has proven to be an absolute killer in those positions.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he seizes on opportunity. I think he's a bigger submission threat than he is a knockout threat personally, which is why when I take a look at these numbers right here, submission prop for Diego Lopes plus 700 currently tracking right now. I thought it was a little silly until you remember it's Volkanovski, though, dog. You know what I mean? Show me the times Volkanovski has been submitted. Like, you can't. It's not there. You know what I mean? It hasn't happened. So, again, this is championship metal versus raw, untested still power, because the biggest win realistically that you can compare Lopes to Volkanovski is Dan Ige, Brian Ortega. Both. I mean, come on, bro. Talk, like, real quick. What's the biggest litmus test? This is the biggest step up in competition that we will see from like a title challenger in how long?
Oh man, been a while.
That's it.
Like
That's it.
yeah.
We don't know. That's the whole entire point, man. So I like your take, man. I think Lopes is a dangerous fighter. I think Volkanovski is a victim to context right now and just like recency bias. So I'm going to go Volkanovski, and I'm going to go a decision, which is going to make me... I want to talk about the totals really quickly, but before we talk about totals, what's your pick?
Yeah, I'm going Diego Lopes, man, and I got to go with that submission. I mean, plus 700, which I agree with you. It's crazy because his TKO is plus 350. So that's another mention about how Volkanovski is being overlooked and what's happened to him recently. But I like the submission prop right here.
All right, nice. So the other play at here is the totals, right? So if you're undecided, if this is too tough for you, you don't know who to tail. When I tracked this earlier, 2.5 rounds was the over. It has moved to 4.5 now, even, minus 115 a pop for the over for the under. So not as much value, but the 2.5 that I found, it was minus 260 for the over, plus 200 for the under right there. So if we're looking at like what does this mean in total, it just means that there's pure uncertainty now by the odds makers. It depends on the book that you got right here. But if you... I mean, you're clearly, it's the same odds for both. It doesn't matter. You're taking the under. I'm clearly taking the over here.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. If this, when numbers are like that, Derek, minus across the board, over and under, whichever fighter you think is going to be the victor, you got to go with their style. And I think Diego Lopes wins this one under 3 rounds. I like the under.
Fair. That is your championship pick right there. Contentious again. I'm going Volkanovski decision. AJ's taking the sub, Diego Lopes. And the added bet I'm going to throw on there is just if you're undecided and you want to rock with me, fight goes the distance. Plus 110 right there. There we go. You know, not quite even money, but you're just about right there. Let's move on over to the co-main. AJ, I said this is going to be the fighter that we're probably fading the heaviest on this entire card right here, because there was many opportunities when I was watching film, when I was breaking this down, where I was like, dude, like Chandler could win. But how many times have we said that? He's 1-4 in his last 5. How many times have we said Chandler could win this fight only for him not to do the things that we expect him to do? And honestly, man, the thing that worries me the most coming into this is that everybody keeps talking about it. Yeah, well, he could subdue the submission threat of Paddy with his wrestling. Dog, he made Charles Oliveira look like a D1 wrestler in their fight. Charles Oliveira was hitting singles and blast doubles against him. I need you to address this before we talk about this co-main event right here. Where did the wrestling of Michael Chandler go?
Yeah, it goes by the wayside once his chin gets touched, Derek. I alluded to it earlier. Michael Chandler has great, all-around, great technique, style, whatever you want to call it. This dude is an absolute savage and very well-trained. But sometimes you've seen it, like he just gets going a little too fast for his brain to be working at the same distance. We don't really see him cool, calm, and composed. He's bouncy, he's tense, he's ready to hurt you, and that's where the game plan falls to the side. Because, yeah, if Paddy... And I do think it's going to be hard for Paddy to be able to get a shot on Chandler that really disrupts him and gets him going, like we've seen in a couple other of his fights. But if Paddy is able to put him in those weird moments and just hurt him just a little bit, I think that gets the dog in Michael Chandler out and gets him a little bit more aggressive than he should be.
Which is a good or a bad thing if you're a Paddy better?
Which is your good thing. A good thing if you're a Paddy better. I mean, the only thing you need to do is avoid a big looping right hand or a crazy power shot that he has, because Michael Chandler can crack, but he's a little bit slower because he's so tense and he's trying to hit you with all that power. Paddy needs to stay smooth and fluid.
Well, you see, that's where I'm kind of undecided, because I don't know if a reckless Chandler is a good thing for Paddy. I don't know if Paddy has the level of striking to be able to deter the big bomb from coming out. So like I had said, I mean, we basically already spelled it out, man. you never know what's going to happen in a Michael Chandler fight. So it makes it very, very difficult to bet on him. But for the reasons that I just mentioned, the inconsistency with the performance, and 38, about to turn 39 years old at 155 pounds against a 30-year-old dude entering his prime, his physical prime, in Paddy Pimblett, I think you got to go Paddy. Now, if we take a look at the line, minus 155 for Paddy, plus 130 comeback for Chandler. That is live. That is right now. Would you agree that realistically this probably should be like a minus 115, minus 105 type situation? Exactly. So I think that the fandom of Paddy Pimblett and the popularity, I think it is like over exaggerating this line, which makes me just beg the question. We like Paddy, but do you like the price? Would you pay the price for Paddy right here, or do you like maybe a different prop or a total?
No, I would pay the price, Derek, especially at minus 155. If we're talking like minus 210, minus 250, not even close. I think Chandler has a really good shot at being able to find his moments to win this fight. So I like 155, but I mean, plus 225 submission odd. It's his second best odd going for that fight. That's the best way I think Paddy's able to get this fight done. Hurt him, club, sub, all day long.
Now, aside from Poirier, in his last 5, Chandler's faced a killer's row, and he hasn't been submitted by anybody except Poirier. And he was, they say at least Chandler was fish hooking and doing all types of dirty stuff, and Poirier just had to sneak that one in and get it out, right? Now, if Oliveira wasn't able to submit him, but Poirier was able to submit him, would you bank on Pimblett being able to submit? I know MMA math doesn't work in that sense right here, but what do you think?
Yeah, the MMA math is hard on that one, Derek. Would I bank on it? Would I put my mortgage on it? No, I wouldn't. Michael Chandler's a dog. He does stay solid. So, but yeah. I do think there's a good chance for sure.
If Chandler keeps this on the feet, man, plus 275 TKO prop is going to look like a steal. So if you're Chandler better, I think you got to go for that. But for everything else, if you think that the fight's going to play out the way that we're talking about, Paddy Pimblett, my play was submission or decision. But the more that I think about it, I'm going to give some respect to Chandler, and just durability right there, not gassing out over 3 rounds. And looking at plus 900 decision prop for Paddy Pimblett, I like that way better than minus 155. I'm going to take a shot. I'm going to stab it, and I'm going to give you a pinpoint. Paddy on points, plus 900. Thank me after we cash it in. What do you got, AJ? How do you see it?
Say it, folks. Hashtag Paddy on points. Derek might be onto something right there. That was the other one I had. Paddy by sub or decision. It makes a lot of sense, especially with the grit that Iron Michael Chandler has. I'm still rocking with the submission, though. I think it's club and sub all day long, like I've been saying.
All right, the consensus pick is Paddy right there, so take that for what it is worth. Another UFC move that happens 5 years, 7 years, 10 years too late. Enter Patricio Pitbull against Yair Rodríguez, brother. Come on, man. You held it down in Bellator for years. You are a legend of the sport. Everybody knows the Pitbull brothers, but you know Patricio Pitbull for sure. You know the wars with Michael Chandler. You know all of that stuff. But here you are at 37 years old, fighting at 145 pounds, and you finally make your UFC debut, and they give you a layup, right? Yair Rodríguez. Not really. Not really. Come on, it seems like that, because if you look at what Ortega did to Yair, you say, what's stopping Patricio Pitbull from just taking him down and submitting him with that black belt? And that's going to be my first question to you. I know there's more that goes into it, but what do you say for the people who make that argument?
Yeah, fast hands, long length. I think he has something like 6 inches on him just in height alone. Yeah, almost about 6 inches on him in reach as well. Yair Rodríguez is long, powerful, talented, and he hits you very hard at the end of his shots. And if Patricio Pitbull is able to get into that area to be able to get the takedown and do some real damage, he needs to come past a 3 or 4 piece combo that's coming at him while somebody's skirting out the way. So there's a lot of danger that goes in front of Pitbull trying to get to where he's best at right here. And Yair Rodríguez, with the speed he is very dominant when he uses it.
And if you look at Pitbull as well, and you look at just like what his last 5 have been, it's been weird because specifically of the Bellator format that they put. They like the Bellator regular and then Bellator versus Ryzen series. And like he lost to Sergio Pettis and then lost to Suzuki and came back, won the championship in his last fight against Kennedy, and now you're in the. It's just been weird, man. I just think that he's got so many miles on the clock. He's done so much MMA in his life. It makes sense for him to open up as a plus 160 dog here against Yair because one, yeah, you're a legend, but you've never been UFC tested per se. And Michael Chandler, who was pretty much one of the biggest rivalries that you had in Bellator, we saw how his career has panned out once he came to the big show. So I think it's fair that Yair is a rightful favorite here. Do you like minus 190 for the Taekwondo specialist with a little bit of a lack of defense?
No, no, Derek. I mean, personally for me, it's way too overblown, right? Like same thing I was saying with that last one, like right around at minus 200, minus 190. It's just too much of a price to pay for how dangerous, proven, and gritty that the Pitbull is.
Okay, well, one thing that I think that we should be able to expect right here is somewhat of an extended fight, especially with the first fight jitters of the UFC. I believe it's real, even for a legend like Pitbull. So let's take a look at some totals right here. If you like Yair, he has to keep the fight standing, which we know that he can do. And if you look at his track record right here, we got some decision wins. Barbosa, Ige. Oh, no, sorry, wrong fighter. You got some decision wins here in... No, you don't. You got some finishes. Hold on. Brother, let's assess this. Ortega, you get submitted. Volk, you get knocked out. You submitted Josh Emmett. You knocked out Ortega, injury, and then you lost in a decision to Holloway. So you're not seeing a lot of decision victories. He is a finisher, 100%. Huh, interesting. What do you think here, man? I know I've already looked at this before, but now when I'm reassessing this right here, I was really thinking a knockout or a decision on this one. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's where my mind was. I instantly, when I'm thinking this fight, I'm giving a lot of respect to Pitbull right here. I think a decision, keep it at range, keep it boxing, keep it kicks, keep Pitbull on his heels and mixing it up. I think that's the best way to win a decision right here. I think that's what the odd makers have it at his best, about plus money odd, right, for all the outcomes, plus 130.
Yeah.
But thinking about it, Derek, like when push comes to shove and the fight goes longer, people find ways to get one over on Yair Rodríguez. It's been a lot of his outcome. I mean, even the Korean Zombie win, right? He was losing that one until a very last second upwards elbow came out of nowhere. And the longer the fight goes, it's harder for Yair Rodríguez to win these fights. So it does make a lot of sense. Plus 275 KO TKO, but man, Pitbull's hard to put away as well.
Yeah, that's fair. And that's one thing. Pitbull, he knows how to extend the fight. You look at a lot of his fights, man. There are a lot of them are going 3 rounds or more. If you look at his past 10 fights or so like that, you're going to see a lot of those ones. So yeah, give me the ranginess, give me the length, and give me the frame of Yair, and give me the chip on his shoulder, man. You got back-to-back losses. You need a big dub. They're bringing in an old, gritty, legendary veteran from a different promotion. You need to defend your ranking first, and then you need to defend your promotion right there. So Yair, I'm going to give him the play. Don't get me wrong. I like Pitbull, but I don't like the age. I don't like the miles on the clock, and this is the big show, so we'll see what happens. So decision prop, plus 130 for Yair, and you taking the same?
Lock that down, folks.
Consensus. Again, let's get it. All right, next up, man, another consensus pick here, but the most heat on the main card, Thug Nasty, Bryce Mitchell. He says that Jean Silva does not respect him. He's been nothing but nice to the man, and he's done all the right things, but Jean Silva just barking at him and doing all of the nasty things, man. Hey, you come into the UFC, you have a decision victory against Kevin Vallejos, who is making a tear right now in his new run in the UFC, and then you rattle off 4 knockouts in a row. Yeah, I'd be barking too, you know what I mean? But people are saying that the fighting nerds are overrated. John Silver is overrated. However, you got to prove it. You can't just say it. And Bryce Mitchell can do that. Again, this is another one where people are saying a live dog, plus 190 for Bryce Mitchell. Well, what happens when he takes down John Silva? It's not like John Silva has impeccable takedown defense. And you know what, AJ? I would agree. But the problem that I have with Bryce Mitchell as of late is that though we've seen nasty submission skills, takedown repertoire, all of that, I haven't seen much improvement to get the fight to the takedown. You have to set up the takedown with something. And if you don't do it against Silva, we saw it with Bogdasarian. I know he's not a wrestler, but this is a nasty kickboxer, Muay Thai guy who just got clipped and it was a wrap. So when you carry that level, or when you have that level of power at your disposal, what does Bryce Mitchell need to do in order to take him down? He was able to take down Topuria after all.
Yeah, I mean, he was able to take down Topuria. I think what the best way for Bryce Mitchell to get a takedown right here, let the chaos, let the power, let the wild man that is John Silva be the aggressor up front. Stand your ground when you're able to get him, cut an angle, hit a quick trip. Like that's the best way I can see it happening. When they go to clash, Bryce Mitchell needs to get those underhooks and then get the takedown going, because really, I mean, we're not going to see him on the advance shoot a double, right, or shoot a single, or set it up to where he's able to push against the cage and then get the takedown that way. He needs to do it off of reactory motion and then use that momentum that John Silva has against him to be able to get this fight down.
That's fair. I mean, that's a fair approach. We'll see if it works out. I think that the only reason they're pricing in Bryce Mitchell at that number, plus 190 right now, is because they think that he's reliant solely on the takedown, and I kind of agree. You know, for a little bit, he was giving Ryan Hall vibes, right? Like that Taekwondo, flashy kicks, but the ability to actually get the fight to the ground too. If you look at what he did in his fight against Kron Gracie last, right? I mean, Kron Gracie just pulled guard every time, so it's like he gave up the takedown. But he was coming in, body locks, like just letting them clash, body lock, and taking them down, pretty much what you're saying right here. Jean Silva, the only problem that I have with him is you saw it, Charles Jourdain, even though he was big for the weight class, he was able to take him down relatively easy. But it's a little bit more of a surprise when you think you're fighting a striker who then, when you're able to turn strikers into wrestlers, it's a different game, you know what I mean? But aside from that, man, let me see the other one. It was that's what he holds the guillotine. He'll try to jump the guillotine right there. You jump the guillotine against Bryce Mitchell, man. He's going to do something nasty here to you. But you have to rely upon three almost Kron Gracie-like rounds for Mitchell to be in his bag to win this fight in a clear decision if he's not able to submit him. I just think that Silva carries so much power. Every fight starts on the feet. It's going to be a little bit of a mission to keep him down if that is the case. I'm going to roll with the Jean Silva by knockout because aside from a little dainty calf kick and maybe like a little 1-2 up the middle for Bryce Mitchell, I don't see anything that makes Jean Silva respect him. So I'm going to roll with those. We'll talk numbers in a second. How do you see it?
Absolutely, folks. Like I said with you before, prop lock. Derek's on it as well. Bryce Mitchell by not Bryce Mitchell. Jean Silva by KO, yeah. TKO, man, plus 115 makes all the sense in the world. Honestly, I think if Jean Silva doesn't get a TKO right here, he might be looking a little embarrassed, man, with all the shit talk that's been going on.
Yeah, you can't be barking at people and doing all the hysteria and not show up. But like I said, 4 knockouts in a row. We're going to say that it moves to 5. In what world, AJ, do you see a decision take place? And if you do see a decision, is it all Bryce Mitchell or are you going a little Jean Silva on there too? Is there a possibility?
I think there's a possibility for a Jean Silva decision right here, Derek. Keep the fight standing as much as you can. When he does get a takedown, you just scratch and claw your way to get it stood up again. Rinse, repeat. If we see a washing machine style of fight, I do think it's going to be the most damage that wins it, and I think that's still coming out of the Silva corner.
All right, a little bit of a flip on the totals right here. 2.5 rounds. The over is plus 125. The under is minus 160. Safe to say minus 160 under?
Safe to say,
yeah.
Yes, sir.
Safe to say. All right, folks, another consensus, Jean Silva. That's your last consensus pick of the card. And we got one more matchup here for you. Some names that you'd almost think this was like 2017, 2018, something like that. You bring them up. But Nikita Krylov, light heavyweight fight right here against Dominick Reyes, man. And listen, this is an interesting matchup specifically because of the lack of notoriety, man. It's almost like a who cares, but when you see it, I think this is going to be such a skillful matchup right here, specifically on the side of what Krylov is able to bring out of Reyes. Now, would I be wrong, AJ, to say that Dominick Reyes in his last fight, it was kind of a layup? I know the circumstances for Anthony Smith. I went to that fight, and you could see Smith was so emotional coming out. I'm sure you could see it better on the TV cameras and all that. But it was weird because even if you try to go back and watch the UFC 310 prelims right now, you can't. Like, they don't even show it, not even on ESPN. So I was like, all right, something weird here. But with that being your featured prelim, Anthony Smith just kind of laid over, second round TKO for Dominick Reyes. On paper, it looks awesome. You knocked out Dustin Jacoby, the Hanyak, even though he's kind of unpredictable up and down. You knock out Anthony Smith, a longtime contender in the division, after getting knocked out 4 times in a row. Enter Nikita Krylov. 3-fight win streak. The man is a menace. He can knock you out. He can submit you. He can do everything in between. He's just also an inconsistent guy, too, with some defensive lapses that you cannot have against Dominick Reyes. So break this one down for me, man. What does this matchup look like in 2025? This ain't 2018 no more.
That's a great question, Derek, because instantly in my mind, when I saw this matchup, I was right there with you. 4 years ago, thinking, wow, like, these guys can be the future of the division. Well, yeah. Now they're basically relegated to gatekeeper status. I mean, this is one of those, you asked it before, like, why are we watching this fight? Like, why is this fight happening? I just think it's stagnation in the division, but it does give either of these guys, whichever wins, and especially if they win in a dominant fashion, it gives them the ability to get their name back into the lights because, yeah, I mean, the light heavyweight division, there's not much motion happening. But if one of these big names that people, and we talked about in the beginning of the intro, where, yeah, you haven't done much for me lately, but now, man, you do here 2025, yeah, this star-studded KO. light heavyweight seems to be a division where you can make some moves in going forward, and we could be seeing one of these guys in that top 5 division or in that top 5 ranking here soon.
Yeah, man, you have a gridlock between Alex Paeta, Ankalaev, Yuri, and Jamal Hill. You have a gridlock between those guys, right? I guess Khalil Roundtree. Those two are going to fight, Hill and Roundtree. So maybe the winner of this one could sneak in and fight somebody in that, mix them up, and maybe we have a new contender on our hands. Who knows? But the other thing to consider, Krylov, 33, still in title contention age. Reyes, 35, man. The thing that you're known for the most, and I know it's a touchy subject, man, but it's John Jones, right? Like, that's it. That one performance that you had all those years ago, that's still the thing that they talk about, and he's kind of been a shell of himself since that performance here. Injuries, life, just different performances. So give me the assessment, though, right here. I like Nikita Krylov in this matchup. I like him by a decision or a submission because he can do it all. Maybe a knockout happens. These are some big boys right here. But if I'm playing knockout, I like Reyes more than I like Krylov. So how do you see it?
I'm with you on that one, Derek. I'm rocking Reyes on this one. That's the same thing I had. First by KO, second by decision. I can see either of those outcomes happening. And if this fight does go decision, I do think it'll be a split. I think it'll be a very, very close fight here if one of the fighters isn't able to run away with it. But, I mean, as dangerous as Krylov is, I still think Reyes has the technical ability to have the advantage in the striking going forward.
You see, I wouldn't disagree with you. He's got a polished jab. He's nice on his feet. He's very tall in his striking, which is a little bit of a problem because Krylov presents the takedown opportunity right here. What I like more than anything is when the two light heavyweights clash together, one has the opportunity to string them up, body lock them, trip them, get them on the ground and club and sub type situation. The other one, in Reyes, all you can do is try to avoid that. So if you're going to give me the guy who has more weapons and you're only going to price him at minus 180 right here, listen, a knockout can happen across the board for either of these guys. And it almost feels like it makes more sense for Krylov to bet knockout because if you look at the props, plus 275 for the knockout, plus 300 for the sub. And that's for Nikita Krylov right there. And I think the only reason is Reyes, a little chinny, right? Let's be real, bro. In this division, you'll suffer 4 knockout losses in a row. Like, it's safe to say the chin has been cracked. If you look at the knockout prop too, plus 375 for Dominick Reyes. So again, give me Nikita Krylov. We're going to take that sub prop right there at plus 300 because I have a hard time seeing this one go all 15 minutes. That's how I'm going to play it right here. For Reyes, are you going knockout or nothing?
I'm going knockout or nothing, Derek. I agree with you. The full 15 minutes, it's going to be a little rough for him, especially because I agree. I mean, this is another one where I have it asterisk, right? Like, Nikita Krylov has a great opportunity to win this fight, and especially if he's able to get a lot of takedowns. I don't see the decision happening for Reyes. Give me that plus 375 TKO.
All right, fair play. Folks, that's your main card breakdown right there. You not only got the victors, you got methodologies, we talked totals, the whole 9, but we haven't talked about the next thing that I wanted to bring up right here, which you're only going to get here on this program. We're not going to share it on Instagram or TikTok or any of the other places. We're talking about AJ's bonus plays, baby, right here. So the name of the game, right, is we're going to cover 4 bonus plays. AJ's going to list them all out. We're going to go one by one, and he will give us one official bonus play for UFC 314. So why mince any words? AJ, we're going to talk about a couple fighters that we've already talked about. We're going to talk about a couple fighters that we haven't talked about on the prelims.
And now, the Bloody Water Podcast presents your Fight Night bonus plays.
What did Chase Hooper do to draw out all the veterans? There's another fighter who is in a similar boat where this dude was just fighting non-stop vets for whatever reason, and UFC just kept feeding him. Chase Hooper gets Jim Miller, A10. Over 1.5 rounds at minus 170 is the play, which I'm not going to lie to you, I'm a little surprised just based on how Chase Hooper has been decimating veterans as of lately. But we love Jim Miller, and we know that he's one of the more real deal active vets in today's game. Talk to us, brother. What do you got?
Absolutely, Derek. And answer your question, Chase Hooper's basically the short guy on the football or the wrestling team. He's got to fight all the big guys now, man. He's a young guy coming in for the UFC. Absolutely a legend killer. And if he keeps going this way, that will be his new nickname. But I'm going over 1.5 right here. And this is a minus 170 prop odd. I like this one especially because it's at over 1.5. It makes a lot of sense to me. The young, hungry fighter in Hooper who has been really proven to really be a problem against a grizzled vet in Miller, man, who has always proven to be a serious problem. This is one of those ones where I see the fight going a longer distance because we have a washing machine style right here.
All right, that's fair right there. Let's move on to the next one. Julian Juicy J. Arosa versus the damaged Darren Elkins, a certified banger in the violence weight division the UFC carries. Listen, the play is to go the distance at plus 105, which is one, ridiculous, and two, super possible at the same time, brother. This one, I don't know where we're at with this one, so I'm going to let you take the wheel. Plus 105, talk to him.
Plus 105, dope, folks. The interesting thing when I was looking at this, you get a minus 330 favorite in Arosa going up, and can he get the finish? Yeah, possibly. It's possible. But you forget who he's fighting. That's the damaged Darren Elkins, man. Anytime, and I've done this multiple times. You go back in the history log, check it out. If you're ever thinking the damaged Elkins is going to get finished, think again. This man is here for violence. He doesn't care if he wins the fight, loses the fight, doesn't matter, because he's going home and having a beer after. He's not going to the hospital at all. This man is an absolute savage. I have a lot of faith in the damage right here, and that's why I think this one's going to the distance.
Only 40-year-old in the promotion that you can have faith in is the damage. That's right. All right. Next up, man, we've covered this one, so we'll keep it short and sweet. Michael Iron Chandler versus Paddy Pimblett over 1.5 rounds, minus 175.
Yeah, minus 175, folks. Two very skilled fighters right here, and kind of in a as much as a need to be finished kind of style of fight, right? Like, both fighters need to be able to get past one another to really elevate themselves going forward. I see it happening. If there is a finish in this fight, I see it happening later on, so I really like the over 1.5 right here.
All right, and then our final bonus play. Nikita Krylov, Dominick Reyes, under 1.5 rounds at plus 130. I would say this more falls in line for the person who's just uncertain on who they want to bet on, but they know someone's going to get finished. What do you got?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, Derek. That's why I think the odds makers have this at plus 130 right here. As of late, both fighters, especially Reyes, have been on, what at least on paper looked like a tear. I agree with you, the Anthony Smith fight, but I'm expecting an explosive start from both of them, and to really keep their momentum going in this and see who's able to earn that advantageous, motion going in this fight.
All right, there we go. All right, well, we only have one option that we can truly pull from this one, so it better be a banger. You got 4 good ones right here. Again, the recap, Chase Hooper versus Miller over 1.5 at minus 170. Arosa and Elkins to go the distance, plus 105. Chandler versus Pimblett over 1.5 rounds, minus 175. And then Nikita Krylov versus Reyes under 1.5, plus 130. What's the official UFC 314 bonus play?
Official bonus play, folks. We're rocking Chase Hooper versus A10 Jim Miller over 1.5 at minus 170. Make sure you get it in soon, because I guarantee that prop's going to change.
100%. Lock them in now. That's AJ's bonus play for the program, folks. We'll check in next week, see how we did. But now, let's talk about the unknowns of today, the stars of tomorrow, the people that you're going to be talking about. No one's going to know who they are. Then when they eventually win the belt, you could say, oh yeah, remember that guy I was trying to get you to watch all those years ago? Yeah, well, you should have tapped in.
It's time for some fight night.
If you ain't paying attention,
you're going to sleep on me and I'm going to wake you up.
AJ, you got a fun one to kick off our sleeper section, so go ahead and talk to him. What do you got?
Folks, we're rocking this week with Sumudaerji versus Mitch Raposo, and we've talked about it. We've talked about Sumudaerji before, so if you don't know the Tibetan Eagle, folks, shame on you. Go watch some film. He's absolutely a killer. Mitch Raposo, man, this dude is a young fighter and an absolute gangster coming out of the New England cartel camp, and that tells you all you need to know. I mean, if you're a fan of the sport, you're a fan of violence, you know the New England cartel shows up and they put out and absolutely get down with the scrap. Right, so here's the need to know, folks. Combined 21 finishes between the two, with the majority of all their finishes being by knockout. So yes, expect heavy leather to be exchanged. Expect a vicious, violent style of fight. This one's going to be a lot of fun, so make sure you tune in and watch this one.
Man, every time that I think of Sumudaerji, I can just picture the image of him laying unconscious in a pool of blood. Matt Schnell just being like, give me the money after that amazing ups. Listen, Sumudaerji, you're always going to have that in the back of your mind, but you better bring it against Rich Raposo. That'll be a fun one. All right, folks, I got an even more fun one, dare I say, here in the middleweight division. We're rocking with the Ultimate Fighter alumni, Tresean Gore, versus the Dana White Contender Series alumni, Marco Tulio. Listen, this fight stands out because you got 18 combined victories. 14 of them are by a finish right here. Gore is looking to really revamp his career. Like, I could have swore coming off the Ultimate Fighter, he was going to be the next big thing, and then just life happens, injuries. Again, things got in the way. Here we are. Tulio, on the other hand, you had to fight on the Contender Series twice to get your shot. You came off a knockout victory in your last one, and all I can say is somebody's going to get hurt in this matchup. That's all that I could say right here. That's why you need to tune in. It's a 185-pound chip on her shoulder. Ultimate Fighter versus Contender Series. Whoever wins this realistically has an opportunity to hit close to that top 15 number in the middleweight division. That's how interesting the game is right now, how much of a low we're at. So you want violence, you want the future of the sport, you need to tune into this matchup. I think it's safe to call it right there. AJ, next thing that we need to cover right here now that the sleepers are a go is going to be the empty carton pick of the week. Folks, just because this is somewhat of a new-ish segment, let me give you the update. AJ's got the bonus plays. I got your empty carton pick of the week. If you're wondering, that's kind of funny sounding. What is that, right? This is going to be your fighter that the odds makers are highly, highly favoring. But I do not believe that the juice is worth the squeeze. It is simple. They might win the fight, but the price is not the way that it should be. They are overpriced for who they are fighting, and we're just going to go back to a fight that we just talked about. But your empty carton pick of the week, Julian Juicy J. Arosa. Sorry, brother. The juice man, arguably right there, unfortunately will not be worth the squeeze against Darren Elkins. Reason being, lack of takedown defense on the side of Arosa. You might knock him out, you might submit him early, but if you don't, it's going to be a long, long night. And AJ, I originally tracked this at minus 425, which is where I said, ridiculous. Can't happen. I will not allow it. If you take a look at the number right now, it has shrunk just a tiny bit. What's the number that we're looking at right now? We are at minus 340. I still don't like it, even though it's a 40-year-old Darren Elkins. But like I said, that's the one 40-year-old in the promotion that you can depend on. So again, all luck to Arosa. Maybe he wins, but I don't like the price. I would not bet him at that price. And we hit last week on Joe Anderson Brito. Pat Sabatini got the job done, even though Brito was a pretty heavy favorite. So if you want a repeat, if you want more money in your pocket, take notes. That's the empty carton pick of the week this week. All right, folks. AJ, last piece of business that we need to handle here today. What is normally a mailbag, we're going to switch it up a little bit this week. I like to call it Headline Madness. We're going to take a look at some of the more intriguing headlines that are plaguing the MMA sphere right now, and we're going to go ahead and break them down. The first one is by good old Uncle Chael. Conor McGregor, he has a beating in front of him. He can't beat anybody at 155 or 170. They'll put him in a main event when he can't even breathe for one round. He's better off without an ass whooping. And to give a little context to Uncle Chael's statement, realistically, McGregor, he has not won a real MMA fight since 2020. That's when he beat up Donald Cerrone, who was already way advanced age at that stage of his career. Remember the innovative shoulder strikes that McGregor was doing, all that? All right, you got him out of there, but you haven't won a title since 2016, back when he became a double champ against Eddie Alvarez. So I think everything that Chael is saying is true. I think McGregor will never fight again in any real meaningful competition. And I think that he's just trying to juice the allure that he had back from the 2010s. But the one unfortunate thing is, this sport just moves on without you, brother. Legends are legends until they're not, and then we don't got anything else to care about. How do you see all of this? What is McGregor's impact in the combat sports industry currently?
His impact in combat sports, like the aura, right? The everything that goes out there is still actually pretty huge. I mean, he was in Roadhouse, right? He's still doing all of his other things. Like the name McGregor does carry a lot of weight, unless you're a diehard fight fan. And then you're with the rest of us where you're hasn't won a fight since 2020, hasn't won a championship since 2016. Dude's washed up. Yeah, I know you guys love him. I know all the antics are there. But at the end of the day, he does have a really good PR person that keeps his name in the spotlight. And we are the minority of the MMA fans out here. So I do think a lot of people, they hear that name, ears perk up. So he still does have a big impact. But should he? No. And should he get in the cage again? Absolutely not. He'd stay retired, go make money and everything else you're doing, because I agree with Uncle Chael. He's one smart man. You're looking for an ass whooping if you walk back into that cage, and we don't need to see it happen.
I think that he's now synonymous with just marketing, like grade A marketing, bro. Like nobody does it better. I don't even think he has a PR person. I think he is the PR person. Like the man needs to open up an agency and he needs to create stars. I think that that's what he should be doing. But we'll see what happens. All right, next up, man. This is actual big news right here, important news, but similar to the Pitbull news. Kyoji Horiguchi, he makes a UFC return. Let's not forget, back between 2013 and 2016, the man went 7-1. His lone defeat was a championship loss, right, to Mighty Mouse. He lost, you got submitted, it was what it was, you dipped out, you took your career elsewhere, and he's been pretty much on a tear, man. But now he decides, after becoming a multiple-time Rising champion, fighting in Bellator, he just actually re-won the belt, flyweight division, and either re-won it or defended it in Rising, dipped out and said, all right, I'm headed to the UFC now. But it's like, damn, bro, 2013 was a long time ago. You know, that was literally pretty much 10 years ago, that span that you were on. What are we doing here? We're spicing up the flyweight division a little bit, which I'm glad, because like we just mentioned, you know, aside from Pantoja and a couple of other names, Moreno, they don't really have anybody else, so this is cool. But would you not say that this entire move is contingent on whoever Horiguchi fights in his first fight? He has to win, and it has to be impressive, because imagine he loses. It's just like, damn, what are we doing now? What do you think?
He has to win, it has to be impressive, and it has to be against a notable name, Derick. And those three things together, lined up together, are very, very hard to accomplish. Because, you know, let's say or you put up Horiguchi against a middle-of-the-pack fighter, right? Yeah, he's on the main card, but not a lot of people care against who he's actually fighting. It's just like, oh, who is this guy? We've never heard of him before. Funny name. He's from across the area. Like, it is obviously, folks, I'm joking around here with the funny name shit, but I really do think that is how a lot of people are going to see him fighting in there. And they need to give him against a talent where he absolutely shuts him down, and then we can see Horiguchi get the respect he deserves.
You know, the thing is when I look at this, to the casual fan, they might just look at it like this is Kai Asakura 2.0. Right? Like, is another Japanese guy that you're bringing in here from another promotion that you're hoping is going to be the next big thing? We saw all the hype for Asakura, and Pantoja came in there and submitted him in, 2 rounds? You know what I mean? Horiguchi, you got to come in here. You got to impress. But I think that this is huge news, a huge signing from the UFC. Just like X amount of years, like way too late. You know what I mean? So I just wish that I wish things could be different, but I get it. Contractual disputes, MMA is weird in that sense. But we'll see what happens. All right, next up right here. This is where things get a little spicy. AJ. Listen, man, Bellator fighters, PFL fighters, they're still pissed. They're still like, yo, what's going on? Release me from my contract. I just want to fight, because some people are being held hostage, especially on the Bellator side more than anything. A lot of the champions there. Don Davis, the head of PFL, the Dana White of the PFL. He has a tweet here where he says, nobody has to be here. And this is in response to Damon Martin, MMA journalist, who's basically saying, hey, you got all these Bellator champions. They haven't fought in a year and a half. What's going on? Don Davis says, nobody has to be here. PFL only provides the only premium global lasting platform for fighters other than the UFC. Countless others have come and gone because they're not serious people. PFL takes the leadership role to grow MMA for fans and fighters very seriously. So my question is not about, hey, let's roast PFL, let's roast on. That's not what it's about, right? I think that the recent departures of top fighters have created some turmoil for the PFL. But shouldn't we as fans, right? Like, shouldn't we hope for the success of the PFL or another company that we're going to talk about in a second? Shouldn't we hope that they do well? Because you need competition. If you don't have competition, the UFC product that's getting pushed out right now that people are against, that people are like, oh, this sucks. We're the big names. How come they're just fighting in a warehouse all the time? If you don't have another promotion to push you, this will continue. This will never stop, because it's just about dollars and you're the only commodity on the market. So are you rooting for the PFL? Are you rooting for Don Davis to be ousted so that they could find somebody else? What does this scenario look like?
That's a really good question, Derick. And I think the one place where I can relate, right? Like, we're talking NBA, NFL, NHL. Yeah, there is competition. You know, you could go play in the D League, the G League, like there's other ways to play, but do they have the eyes that the NBA, the NFL, the NHL, and MLB, all of these that go in there? Shit, I can go watch a AA, a AAA game out here in Austin, Texas for baseball, but we're not gonna, have the majors out here, and that's really what draws attention. So I do think the UFC is in a position where they could be the premier sports, and I guess they are the premier fighting sports company right now, but I would personally like to see the ability to where they can all kind of commingle, right? Like, yeah, we have our champs here, you have your champs there, let's get it going, get a fight together. Like, I do think there is opportunities to meld together, but I think with the way Dana White runs his business and the way Don Davis runs his business, they're never going to see eye to eye. And I do love the tweet he has from it, to quote, provides the only premium global listed platform other than the UFC.
Yeah,
like, you know,
yeah,
you're in
man.
second place. You know people aren't really liking what you put out. Sounds very defensive. I just wish they changed the way they flow.
Yeah, and then Ariel Helwani actually went and roasted him immediately after this. And I don't want to drive into the drama side of things, so we'll leave it there because, again, you can laugh and you can make him the butt of the joke, but I do agree. You need competition if you want to see a different product. If you're not satisfied with the product now, you need to root for somebody else to do well, which unfortunately takes us to our last piece of business. AJ, we called it. We already put up a video, so you guys can go and reference that. But the GFL, the Global Fight League, they canceled their debut events. Future for the fledgling MMA promotion is uncertain. The GFL founder, Darren Owen, he told Uncrowned, that's Ariel Helwani's program, that the main investor they had, they did not fulfill their April obligation, which led to this cancellation. The real problem is that they're saying, yeah, we're probably going to be doing this in June or now so. A lot of fighters, big name fighters, over-the-hill fighters, realistically, they turn down opportunities, man. That's like saying, like, hey, I had job offers coming in and I turned them down because this thing was promised to me. This was going to be my next big opportunity. And now it looks like something that had a lot of red flags going into it, which is why we all looked at it. We're like, really? Is this going to work? But it's like, now, what do? You know what I mean? Can you go back to the person who gave you the job opportunity that you turned down for this and say, actually, I want a job now? And they're like, nah, it's too late. Sorry. Deal has been revoked. You're just playing with people's livelihoods right here. So again, this is not a knock on the fighters who signed up for this. This is a knock on doing business this way and setting yourself up for something that you don't have funding for. And more important, who's going to be the competitor, man? We need somebody to take this thing seriously. Who's going to step up? What do you think, bro?
I'm with you. This is one of those ones you're counting your eggs before they hatch, and you don't have the investor that pulled through in April. Well, you should have had a backup. You should have had a tertiary backup going forward. You should be having as much eyes on this of people that want to just dump money into your division, because that's the only way, or I should say organization, because that's the only way you're going to compete with the monster that is the UFC. We're not looking for third, fourth, fifth place here, folks. You need to be at the top of it, and that's where people need to be wanting to see the product that you produce.
That's fair right there. All right, folks. Well, that is your headline madness for this week. UFC 314 is in the bag. We will be back next week for another breakdown. AJ, that's the program, yeah?
Absolutely, folks. It's been a fun one. Make sure you cash in because we're winning in money again.